Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome back to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're going to be giving our first impressions of Hadrian's Wall.
Yes, probably the biggest, most complicated blank and write game that we currently own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that I've played anyway. I don't know if you've played any more.
I have not.
No. Yeah, it's definitely a big one. And you could kind of tell I was a little surprised when I first lifted this box up. I'm like, wow, this actually feels really heavy. But I did not. I don't know if I grasped or realized just how many sheets were in this box.
Yes.
Because you've got two, pretty much the box size sheets, different sheet stacks of paper that are
about
extremely thick
like
too.
An inch thick.
Yeah.
So that takes up pretty much the whole box.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just pretty much pure paperweight in the box there. So it's got some heft to it. But yeah, it's definitely the biggest, probably also most complex one we've played. I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
By pretty wide margin.
Yeah, you've played Fleet, the dice game.
Yeah, I
that
suppose.
I have not played. I don't know how close that is in weight to this, but
and we played Three Sisters. That's probably the other.
Yeah,
it's a similar. I think to Fleet, the dice game. Fleet might be a little bit heavier, kind of right between these two. But yeah, I would say they're still levels below this one.
Yeah. I say not having played Fleet the dice game.
But yeah, so this was one that I was very excited about playing. I'm kind of a big fan of all the Garphill games. This one wasn't actually one that was designed by Shem or I'm blanking on his name. The other one that helps, I think it starts with an S, is Sam McDonald. I think they make a decent amount of the games, but this one was by Bobby Hill, I think it is.
Oh, Bobby Hill.
But I was still really excited because I've always really liked Garphill Games. So
I believe this one was on your wish list we did the other year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Because, it's definitely one I'm like, I want to see their take on it. I had heard that it was, heavier on the heavier side of the game, so I thought, that'll be interesting to see kind of what they can bring to the table with that.
For me, just being a Garphill game, there's a little bit of excitement, and we had played Raiders of Scythia, which I really liked, and this kind of has a similar look to that, so that was exciting. But when I heard that it was going to be a very heavy, very big flip and write game, I got much less interested in it. So my excitement level was not nearly as high as yours. There was a little bit of, I kind of want to see what this can do. But still a little intimidated and not too into getting it off the shelf. And it did take quite a while since you first played it to actually get me to play it as well, just because it felt like a lot to get into.
Right. And that's something to note too. You've only played it one time. I've played it several times. Only once multiplayer. This is one of very few games that I've actually played solo, and I actually played several games of it back to back to back. Because one of the things about this one is there's a lot going on, and it's definitely something that favors more and more plays, I think.
These are the 2 full sheets of things that you can cross off.
I haven't even counted how many things you could potentially cross off in the game, but there are a lot.
Yes.
For sure. So, even though I've played it that many times, I feel like it's still pretty much a first impression on it. Because the first ones that I played, compared to when we eventually did play it multiplayer, was a bit of a gap. And even with those extra plays, I don't know. I think I had maybe a minor advantage on you guys, or a decent advantage, but at the same time, I don't feel like it was a huge advantage. I've got to go for this for sure. I've got to go for this, even after this play too. There's definitely not. I don't think I've found a path that feels like, oh, you've
yeah.
got to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that gets into what if it lived up to kind of what I was expecting, and I'm just gonna say right away that it definitely does. I really, really enjoy this game and what it has. I don't know that with my play so far, like I kind of said, I don't know if I'm actually getting better at the game, because there's just it's just so much that's like I don't know if doing this versus doing the market versus maybe the theater or the gardens or the courthouse. I don't really know if got to do that because that's going to be the most points or I really can't tell. I think in my plays I've kind of done each one at least once and kind of combined some of them, but I think it would take a lot of plays to really figure out if there's something that really combos well together. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just find it really enjoyable still because it's got a lot of bonuses that you can get and kind of chain together. And it's also one of those, one of the things that I really like, that I like in Tapestry, I like in Terraforming Mars, is you're kind of using resources throughout the round and trying to make things last as long as possible.
And they do all get thrown out at the end of the round, so I
believe so.
So there's no kind of thinking, should I save it or this or that? Because sometimes that can add a little extra layer of thinkiness, like, oh, I could do this, or I could save this and maybe do something better later.
Right.
Whereas now it's just use it or lose it.
Right. Which I think towards the end it kind of narrows things down as to what you can do with certain colored, because it's got several different colors of meeples that you can use, so it kind of narrows your options down a little bit, but you can still typically you can use most of the stuff till maybe the very end of the game or maybe a point in the game if you didn't really plan it out well. But I've really, really had a great time with this one.
I'd say it probably lived up to my expectations, but again, my expectations weren't nearly as high. So I don't know if I was even expecting to like the game. But I did like it, so I guess it exceeded expectations. It is still a lot going on. I don't think it's quite as hard to grasp as I thought it would be. But it still is a lot to look at, and it will be overwhelming in your first game. There's just no way around that. But like you said, kind of getting all those bonuses is a really satisfying. I wouldn't say it's the most satisfying of bonuses in these types of games. I prefer something like Gons, which I think an individual bonus in Gons can feel a lot bigger than these. These are just kind of each getting you one little thing here and there, where Gons can get you a huge chunk of points. But these ones definitely, there's a lot more.
So you
kind of, but
have
and
it kind
builds
of
up.
retrigger.
Yep. But yeah, it did feel kind of like near the end, kind of colors of meeples that were once good are no longer good, and you kind of get stuck with a ton of, I don't know if it was blue or something, and I was just like, I just can't use these anymore. So there is that to look out for, because at the end you're like, oh, I have all this stuff, I can do this, but I really can't, because that's not useful anymore. So that's one thing that did kind of not feel the best, but I mean, that's something with experience you would get to know how to plan for that.
Right. And I think both you and Michaela did really, really well for your first plays. So, I mean, I think that was part of it too, is you guys used your resources really well.
Yeah.
I thought, especially, I can't remember if it was you or if it was Michaela that crossed off all this, or if that's not even one of the games that we played there. But yeah, it seemed like you guys were both doing really well. I was pretty shocked. I just was shocked because I remember my first play that I didn't get as much as that. So it was just cool to see that. It wasn't. I was worried that both of you would be a little more overwhelmed with it. So I was glad to see that. It seemed like it was, making sense enough that and
Yeah. So as with a lot of games, when they have a lot of things, I feel like I prefer certain parts. Where you, I think, like to explore a lot of different things. I mean, I think you have to kind of go with the wall in this whole area every game,
Yeah, do a
and
little
it's
bit of
good
stuff,
that I do like that area, kind of just moving from left to right, from bottom up as well. I thought that was really cool to do that, and then I also kind of like the market here and how you can kind of interact with other players and kind of buy from them, which give them resources. I don't. Did that come from directly from you to them? I guess it wouldn't matter. You're paying it. And they
Yeah,
get it.
you'd pay you'd have to pay, so like for the market, if you were trading someone, you'd have to pay the stone to them.
Okay. Yep.
Versus in a solo game, you're paying it to like there's like a extra deck thing that you kind of put out there, and then you're paying it to that, and that's actually making it harder. So one of the things that happens kind of at points in the game are, or at the end of once you've used utilized all your things, then kind of a battle takes place in a way. And I believe, if I remember right, it's been a little while since I played it. I believe for like resources that you give to them, that's one more card that has to be drawn, because it's. I really like how that works with the battling, where it's like, you're flipping these very multi-use cards for various different purposes all throughout the game, which is really cool. That you don't have to manage like 5 different things. Like, oh, flip this if you're doing a battle, flip this if you're looking at a market thing, flip this. You just can use the same cards for everything, which I find really awesome.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think that's I really like how they can come from left, right, center. You don't really know where they're going to come from, so it can kind of suck sometimes if you like, oh well, I'm just going to put a lot of troops on my right or whatever to kind of get further up.
And those do stick around from round to round as well, so it's not just like, oh, I put them there, they didn't come there, and I wasted that. They will stick around for later.
Right, and I think it's kind of an equal amount of each one, so it's like, so maybe you did get, you did stack up a lot of people on your right cohort or whatever, and maybe a bunch of the first couple rounds it was all left and center. Should eventually they should start coming out there. Should, but not necessarily.
But yeah, I liked a few of them. Like that market. Kind of like the little bit of polyomino down in the bottom. Which
I did like how they added that, and it
really
wasn't
cool.
Yeah, it wasn't too overwhelming of a thing. But I like how that gave you bonuses as well.
But yeah, and just kind of all these tracks on this second sheet that can just get you a ton of different meeples, and it really felt like you start off the round, it's like, I don't have any of this color to do what I want to do. But then by the end of it, you ended up getting like 3 or 4 of those throughout the round just from bonuses. So, yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a. What were you saying?
Oh, you can go.
I was kind of struggling there. So.
I was just thinking, now that I've played this several times, not a bunch of times, but I'm just amazed at how well I think this was put together. Like, I'm just wondering how much testing went into this to make this like work, because it feels like in my plays that I'm always wanting to at the end. I want to do just a little bit more, more, but at the same time, each round, like you had said, it still feels like at the beginning you're kind of like, oh, I don't have enough to do stuff, but then you can get some of the bonuses and usually prolong it for a decent length round, right? I think, and it just always feels like almost the right amount. So it's kind of crazy how well they were able to just put all of this together, since there's just so much there. I think.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I feel like every round I did feel like I accomplished quite a bit. I mean, obviously I didn't fill out my entire sheets, but it felt like, okay, I'm ready to battle or whatever.
That's how I think I've always felt after every round, where it's like, okay, I still wanted to do a little bit more, but I still felt like I accomplished a little bit, made some progress towards some things.
And just other than the final round, it really never felt like I wasted anything.
So I don't know if we gave any scores.
No, we did not.
I'd probably put this run from anywhere from 8.5 to a 9, I think. It's probably not one that I will say. It's probably not one I would play like multiple times in a row.
Yeah.
Because it is pretty thinky and it's a little bit longer game for this type of game. So it's probably not roll and write or flip and write, verb and write. If you're looking for one that I want one that can bring out with the family and play a bunch of times in a row or something, I would not recommend this for that. But it is a very solid one to bring out every now and then if you're wanting a thinkier blank and write game.
Yeah, I'm coming in at a 7 probably for this. I did like it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's, like you said, still not one that I'm probably going to seek out too often, but still one that I think I would have the urge to play every now and then, just to kind of dive into 2 sheets full of boxes to check.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, so if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. Otherwise, if you have any other questions on it, leave them in the comments below. We'll happily answer if we can. We're definitely not experts at this game. I would be interested if anyone feels like they've figured it out, because I think I'd be pretty impressed if you figured out a thing that's like, oh, this works every time and it gets extremely high scores. I'd be really interested to hear that, because at least right now, after this many plays, I still feel like I don't even have a lead on where that would be. But otherwise, if you like this video, definitely give us a thumbs up or subscribe if you want to see future videos. I think this is part of, we played this finally. I think what got us to play it was our alphabet soup thing we're doing, where we're playing all of our games A to Z and kind of doing a video on each letter, so you can check out what we thought of all the H games in our collection if you want to. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our other videos. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
and checking those boxes.